familiar with this house, either because he's been there before or because somebody told him about where that camera was, and that he wouldn't have to worry about anybody coming up on him.
We just received new video that actually shows this subject right here on the screen approaching the home of Nancy Guthrie.
A neighbor just came forward with two revelations that changed the trajectory of this entire investigation. The first, she saw a man who didn't belong in the neighborhood weeks before Nancy Guthrie vanished. The second, a pair of people showed up at her sister's front door in hoodies, tapping on the windows, claiming to be FBI agents. When the real FBI arrived, they said those people were not theirs. And then, the next day, they called back and said, actually, one of them was, "Welcome to day 37 in the search for Nancy Guthrie." And nothing about this case is getting clearer. If you are just joining this case, here is what you need to know. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognized faces in American morning television as co-host of NBC's Today Show. Nancy lived alone in a secluded desert home in the Catalina Foothills outside Tucson, Arizona. She was fiercely independent, sharp-minded, and had been part of that community for more than 50 years. She needed daily heart medication to survive. Without it, her condition could become fatal. Her pacemaker was monitored by an app linked to her phone. On the evening of January 31st, 2026, Nancy had dinner with her family. They played cards, they laughed. Around 9:50 p.m., her son-in-law drove her home and dropped her off at the front door. That was the last confirmed time anyone in her family saw her alive. What happened next was captured by her Google Nest doorbell camera, and it is the kind of footage that keeps investigators awake at night. At approximately 1:47 in the morning, a figure appeared on Nancy's porch. Ski mask, black gloves, dark clothing. A holstered firearm strapped visibly to their body. A black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack, sold exclusively at Walmart, slung over their shoulders. This person looked directly at the camera and then deliberately tampered with it. No hesitation, no panic. Like someone executing a rehearsed checklist. By the time the camera went dark, whatever plan this individual had was already in motion. 41 minutes later, Nancy's pacemaker app registered a disconnection from her phone. Her Apple Watch, which monitored her heartbeat, was no longer in range. 41 minutes between the camera dying and the heartbeat disappearing. That is the window in which Nancy Guthrie vanished. She was not discovered missing until hours later. She had been expected at a virtual church service that morning at a friend's home. When she did not show up, calls were made. Her daughter, Annie, and family members arrived at the house around 11 a.m. They searched it top to bottom. No Nancy, no signs of a struggle inside. But on the front porch, investigators found something chilling. Dried blood. DNA testing confirmed it was Nancy's. By noon, 911 had been called, and within hours a search operation was underway involving the FBI, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, SWAT teams, drones, helicopters, tracking dogs, and hundreds of agents and detectives. Now, here is what just came to light on day 37. A woman named Aldine Meister, a longtime resident of the Catalina Foothills who has lived in the neighborhood for nearly 30 years and went to high school with Nancy's children, sat down with investigative journalist Brian Entin of News Nation. And what she told him adds a whole new layer to this investigation. Aldine said that around January 11th, roughly 3 weeks before Nancy disappeared, she spotted a man walking down her street who immediately made her uneasy. She was getting ready in her bathroom that morning, looked out the window, and saw someone who simply did not belong. She described him as wearing street clothes and shoes that were not meant for walking. He had a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He was hunched over. He was walking slowly, not like someone exercising or heading somewhere with purpose. And the part that stuck with Aldine, when this man passed the street leading toward Nancy Guthrie's home, he paused and took a long, deliberate look down it. In a neighborhood where everyone knows each other, where the same faces appear on the same morning walks year after year, a stranger stands out immediately. Aldine told Entin she could only recall one other time in 12 years that she had seen someone in the neighborhood who gave her that feeling. She mentioned it to her husband. She mentioned it to her mother. The sighting troubled her enough that after Nancy vanished, she contacted the FBI directly and told them everything she remembered. And here's the critical detail. January 11th has come up repeatedly in this investigation. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department have specifically asked neighbors about that date. A ring. Neighbors app post asked residents to turn over video footage taken between 9 p.m. and midnight on January 11th. When the FBI visited Aldine, they asked her directly about that date, and that is when everything clicked for her. The date she saw the strange man lined up with the date investigators were already zeroing in on. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. And it suggests the suspect may have visited the area to conduct reconnaissance well before the night Nancy was taken. This theory is further supported by a major revelation from ABC News, which reported that the masked individual seen on Nancy's doorbell camera may have actually appeared at her front door on a date prior to February 1st. According to sources familiar with the investigation, one of the FBI-released images, the one showing the suspect without a backpack, was captured on an earlier day. The theory is that the suspect approached the door, noticed the camera, and was spooked. He returned later on the night of the abduction, this time prepared to disable it. The Pima County Sheriff's Department, however, has cautioned that the images have no confirmed date or timestamps, and that any claims about different days are speculative. But the suspicious man sighting was not the only bombshell from Aldine's interview. She also revealed a deeply unsettling incident involving the FBI that happened in the early days of the investigation, one that raises serious questions about coordination between the agencies working this case. According to Aldine, her sister lives just a few blocks from Nancy Guthrie's home. On the second Friday night after Nancy went missing, at roughly 7:30 in the evening, two people showed up at her sister's house. It was raining, they were wearing black hoodies, and they were tapping on her windows and frantically ringing the doorbell. When her sister opened the door, they identified themselves as FBI agents. They came inside. They asked if she had a pacemaker. They wanted to look in her garage. The woman removed her hoodie. The man did not. He barely spoke the entire time, and his demeanor unsettled the sister immediately. They stayed roughly 20 minutes and then left. That visit set off alarm bells. Aldine's niece called and asked the critical question, "Are you sure they were the FBI?" The community had already been discussing the dangers of copycat crimes and people impersonating law enforcement in the wake of Nancy's disappearance. So Aldine's sister tried calling the FBI number. It was busy. She called 911 instead. And what happened next was chaos. Within 10 to 15 minutes, 7 police cars and 4 FBI agents descended on the sister's home. They told her flatly, those people were not FBI. She was terrified. Officers treated the home as a potential crime scene. They swabbed her mouth for DNA. They fingerprinted the entire house. They stayed until the middle of the night, processing and documenting everything. And then they just left. No answers, no resolution. The next day, at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sister received a phone call. It was from the larger team of FBI agents. The message was stunning in its casualness. "Oh yeah, by the way, that woman was an FBI agent. We don't really know who the guy was, but she was, so you're fine." that was it. A terrified woman had her home treated like a crime scene, was swabbed for DNA, had her house dusted for prints, spent the night in fear that someone connected to Nancy's kidnapping had been inside her home. And the resolution was a phone call the next afternoon admitting that one of the visitors was legitimate FBI, but the identity of the man who accompanied her remained unclear. Aldine did not mince words about what she believed this revealed. She told Entin she thought the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department were not communicating effectively in the early stages of the investigation. Two agencies, operating on the same case, in the same neighborhood, and apparently unaware of what the other was doing on a given evening. In a case where every hour matters, where an 84-year-old woman's life hangs in the balance, that kind of breakdown is not a minor bureaucratic hiccup. It is a failure with potential consequences. One of the most frustrating aspects of this investigation has been the near-total absence of usable surveillance footage. Nancy's Nest doorbell camera was tampered with by the suspect. Her additional security cameras were not recording because she did not have an active cloud subscription. The system detected a person at 2:12 a.m. but captured nothing. No video, no images. Every angle that could have shown what happened, where she was taken, and which direction the suspect went, is gone. And it is not just Nancy's cameras. When the FBI canvassed the neighborhood asking for footage, they found a troubling pattern. Multiple residents had non-functioning cameras or gaps in their recordings. Aldine herself admitted her Ring camera was not working when agents asked. One neighbor told Brian Entin that his Ring camera history was mysteriously marked as not available on the night Nancy vanished. The FBI has since gone door to door, asking residents specifically about Wi-Fi disruptions and internet outages on the night of the disappearance. Several homeowners confirmed to NBC News that agents visited them asking exactly that question. The implication is staggering. Someone may have intentionally disrupted internet service in the area to ensure there would be no footage. Aldine explained the mentality that left so many cameras inactive. It's such a safe neighborhood. Honestly, half the time we used to not lock our doors. We do now. Now we have cameras and things like that. But no, I've never even had a package stolen in 23 years. A sense of security that lasted decades was shattered in a single night, and the absence of footage that it produced may be the single biggest obstacle standing between investigators and an arrest. 37 days in, and this case is far from cold. A dedicated task force of 5 Pima County Sheriff's deputies and multiple FBI agents has been formed to work the Guthrie case full-time. While tips to the FBI hotline have tapered from the initial flood of tens of thousands, experts say that is actually a positive development. Fewer false leads means investigators can focus on the actionable intelligence they have already collected. The evidence continues to accumulate, even if a suspect has not been named. Investigators recovered unknown DNA from Nancy's property that does not belong to her or anyone in close contact with her. Black gloves found roughly 2 miles from her home were tested against more than 26 million profiles in the CODIS database and produced no matches. One of the gloves has since been connected to a local restaurant employee near the neighborhood who is not considered a suspect. The sheriff has acknowledged there are challenges with the DNA found inside the home. It is mixed and partial. Investigators have turned to genetic genealogy in an effort to trace the suspect. A former FBI agent noted what she called an overlooked detail in the doorbell footage. The suspect appeared to be carrying a handheld walkie-talkie, suggesting the operation involved at least one accomplice. The Sheriff's Department has confirmed they are not ruling out the possibility that more than one person was involved. A vehicle was captured on a Ring camera approximately 2.5 miles from the home at 2:36 a.m. on February 1st. consistent with the abduction window. The vehicle has not been identified. The total reward for information leading to Nancy's recovery now exceeds $1.2 million. $1 million from the Guthrie family, $100,000 from the FBI, and over $100,000 from the Arizona organization 88 Crime. In a video posted by Savannah Guthrie, she spoke words that captured the agonizing dual reality her family is living in. She said the family still believes in a miracle and still believes Nancy can come home. But she also acknowledged that Nancy may already be gone. She asked for whoever has information to come forward so the family can know where she is. A neighbor saw a man who did not belong 3 weeks before Nancy vanished. The FBI has been asking about that exact date. Someone may have jammed the neighborhood's internet the night she was taken. A masked figure with a weapon and a backpack disabled her camera with the calm precision of someone who had done this before, or at least practiced. And when agencies rushed to investigate, they could not even coordinate who was knocking on which doors. This case is not going cold, but it is getting more complicated by the day. And somewhere out there, someone recognizes those eyes behind the ski mask. Someone sold that backpack. Someone knows what happened in those 41 minutes. If that someone is watching this video right now, the tip line is 1-800-CALL-FBI. The reward is $1.2 million. And the clock is still ticking. So here's the question I will leave you with. Was the man Aldine saw on January 11th the same person who appeared on Nancy's porch 3 weeks later? And if the FBI already knew about that date, what else do they know that they are not telling us? Drop your theory in the comments, subscribe now, because when this case finally breaks, you are going to want to see it here first.